Yes.
I'm certainly going to make a point of saying this in the outro. But thank you so much for agreeing to participate here at Aaron's Opinion and coming on. I mean, it's been 7 years, and it's really interesting to be able to interview someone that I've already met a very long time ago. I mean, there's a couple people that I can say this to, but who I've actually met in real life and I'm interviewing, but you are certainly one of them. So, Nikki Edmonds, for one thing, let's just start with the basics. Who is Nikki Edmonds?
Okay, well, you have said my name. So my name is Nikki Edmonds, and I come from the beautiful island of St. Lucia, in the Caribbean. I am the third child of 11 siblings. My parents really did try to raise us, like in accordance with their religious belief. My dad is visually impaired, so I actually inherited the condition from him. I attended the um, Santa Cruz School for the Blind in Trinidad for 3.5 years. Then I came back down to St. Lucia, where I went to the St. Lucia Blind, well, sorry, the St. Lucia School for the Blind for a couple more years. Then I went to the Canon Laurie Anglican Primary School for some years. Then I went to the Boca Senior Primary School for some years and the George Shaw Secondary School. And basically, I was very interested in music, but I never expressed myself until, say, like when I was like approaching my 20s or just before, and I was with two bands respectively. The United Talent Band and the Talented Visually Impaired Band. These two bands comprised of blind and visually impaired persons, and we would just, be at various locations, like gigging and stuff like that. And I got a lot of exposure. I did a lot of karaoke, so that helped. And then, I was just writing and composing in my spare time. I have two daughters. One is 22 years old, and the second one is 14 years old. So, I guess that's pretty much a little about Nikki Edmonds.
And that's very interesting. I never knew 7 years ago, back in 2014, that you had studied actually in Trinidad at their school. Can you tell us, for the listeners who are maybe less familiar, can you tell us a little bit about that experience in Trinidad and some key points and some key things that happened there? Maybe something really funny, really sad, or really interesting that happened to you there.
Oh my God, something really funny.
Yeah,
Okay,
or
well,
or really interesting or really serious. Either way.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, basically, I went to Trinidad at a very young age. I was about 5 years old, and that experience did not go down too well with me because I was very attached to my family, especially my mom. And so, going to boarding school really and truly did not serve me, at least not until I really understood what was what. So I spent like 3.5 years there, but we would come home on breaks, like, summer breaks, Easter, Christmas, and stuff like that. While over at the school, my piano tutor, who's now deceased, Mr. Morris Connor, I mean, this gentleman was an exceptional piano player. I loved the piano, but I never played. But I was so fascinated with it and with him. So sometimes I would just go up to the piano keyboard and just, gently, like just run my fingers over the keys reverently. But like I said, I never played. One funny experience I can never forget is that one day we were in music class and I really wanted to go to the bathroom and he refused to allow me to go. And so I just urinated at his feet and he slipped.
Ew.
And
Ew. Okay,
yes.
that's creepy. Okay, no, we didn't. Ew, that's okay. Ooh, that's cringy. Okay. Uh, that's that. Okay, that's just creepy. Okay. Okay.
Oh my God.
So then that was really creepy. Okay.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
So after you creep me out and after you move back to Saint Lucia,
Okay.
okay, let's go
Yes.
with less creepy. What are some things that happened at that particular, once you moved back to Lucia? Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, once we got back there, to St. Lucia, what happened is a school for blind and visually impaired children had been founded, and so we were actually, like placed in there. Um, Spent some years there. We learned to read and write print pretty much because in Trinidad it was mostly Braille, right? Where we were just, really integrated into print, when we came back here. So that kind of helped. Well, it did help. And um from there, we were integrated into the sighted schools basically because it was thought that, every child should be given the opportunity to an education regardless, of, disability or, you know, that sort of thing. So that's what happened. And it was a very, uh, gosh, it was an experience that was challenging because I had never gone to school with quote unquote fully sighted children. Some of the children were very insensitive, but when kids don't understand, they behave like that, and it was challenging.
Sure, 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 sure. And you mentioned something that I think is very important. You mentioned that when you went to the school for the blind in Trinidad,
Hmm.
you started going there when you were 5.
Yeah.
Just a little girl, and I
Yes.
have some pretty strong opinions about that. I think that there, and of course you're familiar. I forget if I specifically told you this, but I'm sure you're familiar with UVC radio and tell it like
Yeah.
it is. Tell it like it
Hmm.
is. And of
Hmm.
course, I come on there. I come on their show often, not all the time, but fairly frequently. I'm on their show, and I
Hmm.
recall that me and Mr. Wilbert have had a lot of conversations about education, and that
Hmm.
basically what has happened in the Caribbean is that and of course there's a spectrum, but overall, education has been a challenge for all people in the Caribbean, whether
Hmm.
you're blind or
Hmm.
not. So it's affected things because it has. And this is only my opinion. I think that
Hmm.
sometimes people in your part of the world don't always have the confidence to move forward in life because they never had the education to
Yeah.
fully, have the strength and fortitude to get up and start doing things in life. So,
Hmm.
and of course, Mr. Wilbert can tell us better than either one of us that this is
Hmm.
definitely the truth in Jamaica. The point being
Hmm.
is that when parents are making this decision, whether to send their blind child to a school for the blind or to mainstream the child, I have a pretty harsh opinion, and I'm not a parent. So if the audience wants to say, hey, you probably shouldn't be saying this, well, you might be right, but I'm going to give you my opinion, which is that
Hmm.
I think that these schools for the blind need to be used very carefully because when you send a child into that environment and then they start to not really like it, then that affects their ability and willingness to, participate in education. So
Yep.
I tend to think that, for me, school was pretty tough and I was mainstreamed. So by the time I got to university, I was already kind of fed up with things and I didn't really
Hmm.
want to listen to what people had to say once I got to university. So, you have to pay, yeah, you have to pace yourself. But I think it does affect children when they go leave their families at young ages like that. And
I'll tell you
some,
what, Aaron,
sure, sure.
I concur because let me tell you
Yeah.
something, and I'm gonna say it with absolutely no fear of what the repercussions may be, but I will say that to this day I detest school. Okay, that is why I never
Right.
pursued,
Yeah.
any courses or anything of that sort because it left a bad taste with me.
Exactly.
I dropped out at age 15,
I
for the
remember that.
record. Yes.
You were telling, yeah, and you were telling our great friend Culturama, you were telling Diva that too when I was listening to the episode.
Yes.
And and of course it's totally it's totally none of my business to ask this, but of course if
No,
you
that's
want to share,
cool. No,
but
you
if you want to
can.
tell us why, um, for an educational standpoint, specifically why you dropped out, because a lot of people drop out of school and it's a big problem. So why did you make that choice?
I dropped out because, well, one of the main reasons was, the way I was treated, by
Right.
my peers. That was one of the main reasons. And also I had some personal issues.
Okay.
Um, also, Aaron, is like subconsciously I always knew that I didn't have to sit in a classroom to
Right.
gain knowledge or anything of that sort. Subconsciously, I knew that. I'll tell you what, when it comes to religion and education, I do not, I'm not too fond of these two institutions. I mean, this, in my opinion, is slavery, and that is just how I feel, and I will not change it.
Right.
I think we're forced into these two institutions, and for me, I have a problem with that. So,
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of truth to it, and I think that's a similar thing that happened to me where I never really liked teachers. It's very ironic because now I'm a teacher. So
oh,
when a student doesn't want to learn with me, I'm nice about it. I'm nice to them, and I understand because I
yes,
think when people get fed up with teachers, it affects their willingness to listen in the future. And I think looking
definitely,
and
yeah,
looking back on it, I think that's what happened with me. I had a very difficult time going through primary school, secondary, and then high school.
yeah,
And then by
yeah.
the time I graduated high school, I was used up, and then I went to college and didn't really like it because
Boy,
I
wow,
was
wow.
already I was already kind of tuned out of listening to what teachers had to say, I
I
think. And
know,
you know,
yeah,
and there's a tiny bit, and we all have a tiny bit of guilt secretly in the back of our mind about these types of matters. But you know
yeah,
what?
definitely.
Life is life, and you know what the truth is. If someone asks you, Nikki, what if you could go back and change anything about your past, or if I ask a student this, there's only one right answer that all of us should give. It should be that we should have worked harder in school because all of us should have worked harder and all of us could have. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's that's
definitely.
that's a society thing. We all could have
Mhm.
done that. So
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, on a brighter note, on a brighter night. Now okay, knowing that I've been podcasting for a few years, have you
Mhm.
listened? Have you caught up with Aaron's opinion and listened to our content? It's fine if you have not, but have you?
I have to be honest, I haven't, but
Oh,
it's
you
my
haven't.
intention to.
Oh, I know you
No,
will.
no, I will seriously, because what I want to do is, I want to do it with my producer, and that's one thing that I would like to touch on.
Oh yeah, yes, yes, yes. So, well, I was just going to tell you, I'm going to talk to him tonight. He can come. Well, I'm going to ask him if he wants to come tomorrow night. Yeah, guys, we got a little frustrated a couple nights ago because of his technical problems, but no problem. That for the record, that was not his fault.
Yes.
So I will talk to him. I'm very sorry about that. He got a little between us he got a little frustrated, but I really didn't mean to frustrate him. It's just if it's a technical problem, it's nothing personal. We just have to come back to it, and that's all. So yeah,
Yes.
I will definitely get back to him after this recording. I
Sure.
agree. Yeah,
Sure.
but
Mhm.
if you can tell him that Aaron's opinion is not upset and that he wants to have you on as
Yeah,
soon as
I mean,
you can certainly let him know. Yeah.
I think he's cool with that, but I will let him know.
Yeah.
Um, so currently, you know, um, I have teamed up with a young gentleman by the name of Kevin Monrose, also known as Kelly Indigo, and we have formed a band, a musical band, and we go by the name of the Universal Connection. Over the past 9 months, we have put out two albums and, let's say, 12 singles. Yes, and we're working on our third album comprising of 12 songs. So this has been a major um, event for us both, especially with what's going on around us, the COVID pandemic. We have a great working relationship, and we really want to continue producing music. And so that's exactly what we're doing.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I would like to say is, if you want, I would love to include one of your songs on this recording. So if you want, you can even send me the audio file, and I can actually put it into the podcast as a separate
Okay.
track. That would be
Right.
really exciting for listeners to
Yes.
get to actually
Okay.
hear a professionally produced
Right.
song. So,
Yes.
what types of professional production does happens at the Universal Connection, and how does someone? A lot of people want to know too, like how do you get into the music business properly, and how do you figure out like the right people to work with in the first place?
Um, wow, that is kind of a tough question. I
Oh, I
think
thought it was an easier one. I thought it's
no, no, but that's okay. And this is just my personal opinion. Getting into the music, I think it has to be something that one wants to do. I think you need to want to do it, and um you have to you have to be serious about it, because when you decide to do anything, you have to have a level of commitment. So when it comes to music, especially here in St. Lucia, radio stations don't really play a lot of the locally produced music. So what we're trying to do is to get our stuff out of St. Lucia. That too is a challenge. Um, boy, you see, we have decided to collaborate because it's like basically a gamble. I mean, we got to know each other. We got to, like feel out each other's music, and we experimented and stuff like that. So we're just actually playing it by ear. It would have been a lot easier, I think, had we a manager who was well versed, like on the line of these things. But we're just playing it by ear, going along, day by day, and hoping that at some point we will get a break. That's what's happening.
right, right. But doesn't the Universal Connection and Cali Indigo have like a professional business, and aren't they licensed? I guess how much? It's kind of it's kind of a weird question. It's kind of
No, it's
complicated to ask it. Like, for example,
mm-hmm.
I don't have the equipment to do it,
Right.
but let's say that Aaron's opinion came to you and
Mm-hmm.
they said Nikki, I want to help you produce a song,
Mm-hmm.
and then I produce it for you
Mm-hmm.
and set it up for you and then publish it. But I don't have a license to do that. I'm not licensed. I don't have a business license to
Oh,
do
you mean
that.
like
So
copyright and stuff like that?
yeah, like wouldn't you need to find someone who has the right credentials to even be allowed to record you like that? That's what I'm
Well,
asking.
what happens is, mm, my producer actually does the recording and stuff like that. He has the studio. So we actually record together.
Right, but then I know that I understand, but in other words, how is his studio like under St. Lucia law? How are you even like allowed to just produce and like don't you kind of need like a publication something or other
Well,
or yeah.
basically, what's happening is we are registered with a company that's actually responsible for the rights of musicians here
Okay,
in St.
that's
Lucia.
there you go. Okay, so you do need to have
Yeah.
a license.
So
Okay, there
yeah,
you
so
go.
what we do is we register our songs with them, and they have like the music available to them. And they is like what they have a tracking system. So whenever music is played, it's actually registered, and then you get royalties, right? That's what happens.
Mm-hmm. So that's the
Yeah.
first thing someone needs to do is they need
Well,
to
basically, yeah.
they need to
But
find
what we're
someone
trying
whose affiliate is has a company like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to have a monetized channel where we can actually get revenue from the music played. Like on, say for example, YouTube, a monetized channel where you can actually, like, where people can buy the music, and an account is set up, and then they just actually deposit the monies into that account, and we in turn get it. So we're working on that.
Right, right. Well, one of the first things is for me to be able to play one of your songs on this episode and then that song will get played out. So that's really important. That's really cool.
Well,
Really
yeah,
good.
definitely. As soon as I'm done talking to you, I will speak with my producer and I will
Hmm.
ask him to send you a song and you will be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. So what is your favorite, when you sing and things like that, what is your favorite style and genre to sing?
I love dance. I love dance music, dance, techno, that kind of thing. Yeah, I love that.
Can you give me a little example of an original song? By the way, you know that you aren't getting out of here without singing, right?
Oh my God, yes. I figured that. Um, okay, let's see. There is a song that I did on the album that was released just let me see, sometime in July. Was it July? Yes, I think so. July, August, around there. So it's I really like that one. It's called I'm Addicted to You. Um, let's see. So do I sing now? Must I sing now?
Sure, why not? A little bit. Why
Okay.
not?
Okay. It's an addiction that I can't break. You gotta help me for my own sake. The more I get it, the more I want. So come here, baby, let's get it on.
Oh, okay, very nice.
I try to hold back, but it's too late. The more you give me, the more I crave. Your love for me is worth everything. I can't do without the high you give. Yep.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. And then, how would you describe the instrumentals behind that?
Oh, well, yeah, there. I mean, we did an arpeggiator, we did some drums, we did some piano, a bit of synth strings, like synth leads, the bass, that kind of thing. So it's really a nice song. I think, well, since since I did that one, I will have my producer actually send you that one so you could run through the podcast.
Excellent, excellent.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, so outside of that, what other instruments do you play besides the voice?
Well, I do the keyboards, but then that's basic. That's yeah. I do a bit of keyboards. A lot of the instrumentation on our tracks, I actually, played them. And my producer does guitar. He plays bass. He does a bit of keyboard. He does the ukulele, a bit of the banjo. He's really versatile. So it's really great to have somebody like that working in close partnership with.
Definitely, definitely. Now, when you say you produce albums, do you mean like on iTunes? Like, how does the actual production and distribution of these albums work?
Okay, that's the thing. We've only released them on YouTube, and like I said, we want to have monetized um channels where people can actually buy the stuff. So we are working on that. We've not yet succeeded, but we really want to because we need to actually rake in, like income from our producing.
Right, right. Sure. There's probably a lot of ways that you could do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Very
so
good. Very good.
we really want to work on that.
Right. Well, you would need to get your subscribers up on that YouTube
Well,
channel. That's
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of the key things.
that's the problem.
Mhm.
Your channel is is,
Yeah.
is just beginning. Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's very frustrating when you don't have a lot of subscribers on YouTube, but you just have to. My advice is that if you
Mm-hmm.
focus on your content and if you really take ownership of your music and really love singing it and love the people see when you love what you're producing,
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
and people really respond well to that. So over time, slowly but surely,
Mm-hmm.
you will find that you start gaining a following through that.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's probably apps that you can put these tracks on that can probably be arranged too. So there are definite ways, but
Yeah.
Well, that's all really good. So, what are some things? How else are you spending? Well, for one thing, anytime that you're in the studio doing the production, how many
Mm-hmm.
hours does it take to produce any one song?
It varies. It depends on the genre, it depends on the instrumentation, it depends on the mood. Honestly, it really does. And so, I mean, I spend a lot of time over in the studio with my producer. Sometimes we work on like one song per day, sometimes two songs per day. Then when we're done, we actually go back into the songs to tweak them and stuff like that. So it really depends. Yeah.
Hmm. So it could be like 8 hour. It could be 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day, easily.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. Well, that's really excellent.
Yes.
And how else are you spending your time?
Um, well, sometimes I write songs, like when I'm back home, or I'll just go on the keyboard for a while. Just taking it really easy. Sometimes I'll play with the cats, spend a little time with my second daughter, because my oldest one isn't with us. She lives someplace else. But I do a bit of reading, in my spare time, but I haven't done that of late because I'm so wrapped up in the music and stuff like that. I try to reach out to my friends, whenever possible. That kind of thing. That's how I spend my time. Hmm.
Mm-hmm, hmm. Yeah, you mentioned on that other episode that you're really into animals. What
Yes.
which is actually for your region, for St. Lucia, that's quite unusual to have animals. Most people didn't really seem
God.
to into pets. So what pets do you have?
I have five cats
Oh,
and a
five
dog.
cats. Oh,
Yes.
well,
Yes.
as a matter of fact, um, um, the the sad thing that I mentioned on the WhatsApp, I don't talk about it
Yeah.
on the air. But outside of all of that, I will tell you that my parents have suggested that someday when I have my own place to live, I should get a cat. So what can
Yes,
you
I
t-
think that would be good.
well, that's exactly what everybody else is saying. What
Yeah.
so you must really think that cats are great for blind people. What is it
I
about cats that are so good?
yes.
And considering you have five, what are some interesting things you can tell me?
They have their own personality, and when you get to learn them, they are remarkable animals. They're very affectionate, and this is my personal experience. They can be unpredictable, however, they're really fascinating, and they're very playful. They honestly, I think that cats are very special animals. There's something high about them. I don't know for other people, but when I'm
Oh,
around them, when I'm around them, I feel joy. I feel utmost joy. That's where I feel the most joy, being around cats.
that's so good, Nikki.
Yep.
Well, that's really inspirational for me to have one of my own. Then that's so good to know.
Yes.
And
Yes. I hope you do.
specifically,
Mhm.
that's so sweet, Nikki. Now
Yes.
specifically, what breed of cats do you have? Do you know what their breeds are and where they came from?
That's the thing. I don't know. All I can tell you is I have five cats. And I had, well, they actually came from cats that gave birth to them prior to, but they have passed on. But those I have are here now,
One,
so.
so it sounds like you basically adopted kittens, right?
Um, Not really, Well, basically, there was one that I actually adopted. I was going to a meeting and I found her and I took her home. That was in 2012. She has passed on, but she actually left one of the cats and it's grown now. Um, we have our home has a tendency to attract cats, and I really believe that it's because of the energy that they feel coming from me. Seriously. And my older daughter, I mean, this girl loves cats more than, I don't know, life itself. She loves them. She loves them. And so they, you know, cats would just gravitate towards our home. And there were two of them that really, I mean, these cats, they were just exceptional, but they've gone
Yeah,
now.
that's tough.
Yeah, they've gone.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's hard. That's hard.
I hate
But I
when
mean, I
they
was,
die, you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, see, and that's the thing because my dream pet is a parrot, is a bird, and one
I've
of,
seen that.
oh, you've seen it?
Yes. Isn't that the one that you actually have on your profile picture?
Um, you know what's really weird about that? You're right, I do on WhatsApp, but um, this is kind of cringy. But for some reason, I thought you were totally blind.
No, 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 no. I'm visually impaired.
Oh,
It's
you're
like
visually impaired.
basically,
Oh, okay,
yes. Like,
that is fine.
I mean, I'm legally blind, but I
Right.
have some vision. Yes.
Okay. Yes, you're right. In fact, and now on the podcast avatar is a picture of me in my red shirt here, but but yes, you're right. You're right. So yeah, one of the concerns that my family has about birds is that they live forever. You know, so that's very magical.
Oh, oh my God. But isn't that supposed to be a good thing?
Don't you think it's kind of good if you're getting a pet and you know it'll never die?
Well, yes, but that's what I'm saying.
I guess. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the magical thing. Yeah, cats and dogs only live about 13, 14, 15,
So
16 years.
sad. Yeah, so
You
sad.
know,
I wish they
that's a
never died.
well, it's a relatively short life when you think about it in comparison.
Oh,
But then again,
yeah.
a friend of mine had a cat who lived to be like 21 or 22, which
Oh
is
my God. Wow.
it's just unheard of. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jeez. That must have been a special cat.
Yeah, it was, and she loved it a lot. So
But you
yes.
know, I have one and he is very wild, but I still play with him. I mean, when I touch him, he growls literally. And I'm more motivated to pet him
Hmm,
when he does that.
I
And you know,
see.
people say to me, be careful lest he bites me. And I'm like, no, he wouldn't bite. No.
So what? But what? Well, like, what color are your cats though? Like, how would you
Oh, okay.
describe them?
I have one that's multicolored. I have one that's actually gray, like spotted with black. I have
Oh,
one, yes, I have one that's she's white and she has a little brown, a little gray, a little tinge of yellow. And I have one that's black and white. There's another one that's, oh my God. There's the, let me see. So that's one, two, three, four, five. Yes. Basically, and there's another one that's actually, she has like yellow and a bit of brown and gray kind of and black. So it's like a mixture. Yeah.
I see. I see. Yeah, when I was living in Lucia with the volunteering, no, I mean, a couple people had cats around, but I didn't really notice that there were that many cats. But yeah, how easy is it to have a cat and to find a cat in St. Lucia?
I think if you look well enough, it's quite easy because a lot of times people have kittens and they want to give them away
I
and they
see.
don't know what to do with them. You know, I mean, I remember in 2017, I took my dog to be fixed because there was a free veterinary clinic going on. And I was amazed to see the amount of people who came. There were people with cats and dogs, a lot of people. And I was like, wow, solutions are changing because they actually take more interest in their pets than I knew they did before. So that was a really good thing to see. And it really warmed my heart, you
Oh,
know.
well, that's really good. That's really
Hmm.
good. So it
Hmm.
sounds like your cats are very colorful. They have beautiful fur and a lot of color,
Yes, they are.
personality. Oh, well,
Hmm.
that's so good. That's so
Yep,
good.
and I hope you get one in the not too distant future.
Okay. Okay, we you know what? You know,
Yes.
we have that on the recording. My mother in
Good.
particular will love that. Will love that. You're
Nice.
very pro cat. I haven't met too
Good.
many people who are
Mhm.
pro cat, but you're pro cat. I totally
Yes.
see. She also
Yeah.
it's very interesting too because my mother and brother are allergic or say they are. So
Oh,
she was my mother was doing some research about it. She says that if you get a cat that is white, female, and long furred, that you will be less allergic. So
really?
I Yeah. I don't know. There's some science behind it about specifically what
Oh,
cats
that's
people are allergic.
amazing.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. But of course, you aren't
well,
allergic, so.
not at all. I mean, even if I were, I would still, I would beat the allergies because I think not having at least one cat around is bad. Yeah.
Well, I see. Well, that's so good. Well, that's
Yep.
that's 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 adorable. So okay, so that's wonderful. So you hang out with your cats,
Oh yeah.
and what are some things that you've been reading these days? Mm-hmm.
I haven't read in a little while, but the last book I was reading was really interesting. Can't remember the name of it right now, but it was about a lady who actually had to marry a guy because she had to break a family curse, you know? So it was really interesting. I think the person's imagination was really good. Yeah, something of that sort.
I see. I see. So what has
Yeah.
been going on these days in Saint Lucia? Mm-hmm.
Well, like the rest of the world, well, the pandemic is really wreaking havoc. I try my best not to pay too much attention to it for my own sanity. I have my own views about this entire topic,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone is trying to cope the best way they know how regarding what's going on around worldwide. So pretty much the same, you know, everybody's just grappling with various issues and stuff, trying to stay afloat. That's more like it, you know. Yeah.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been very frustrating. So since
Mm-hmm.
since you met me in person, I've since graduated college and then I got into the podcast circuit. So
Mm-hmm.
and I teach all day and then podcast when I'm not teaching. So that's how I spend my time. But yeah, I
Okay.
think a lot of people have really been overwhelmed by the whole situation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nikki, you have a lot of interesting things to say. You really like, the production of podcasts. So when are you going to start your own podcast?
Really and truly, I have thought about it, but I don't know when. I think
Mm-hmm.
it would be really interesting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But with the music taking, main stage, I'm really not sure how I'm gonna work around that. But it's something to look at. I wouldn't mind doing that at all.
I see. I see. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
let's see how that's gonna turn out, you know.
Yeah, I think you could easily turn your life experiences into a podcast, and that would be another way for you to produce your songs and get your music out there.
Yeah, well, that's an option, you know. That is an
Mm-hmm.
option.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, so let me ask you this question in a very interesting way.
Hmm.
So, were you surprised when I contacted you, by the way?
Very much, yes, I was because just a few days prior to you reaching out to Kelly Indigo, I told him about you, and when you were in St. Lucia, and I told him about our friend, your pet dog, and so when I heard that he actually got a message from you, I was elated. I was like,
That's
wow, this
weird.
is no
That's really weird.
coincidence.
That's really weird.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
honestly, I mean, I was like, what? Yeah, I was just so taken up with everything. I was like, wow, this is no coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
really that's really. So I'm sure you have a lot of questions for me. What are your questions that you want to be able to ask me? I love letting guests ask a lot of questions. We've covered a lot, and I think
yeah.
you'll really get a lot out of this. So what do you want to know?
Well, I mean, I'm curious to know, apart from, like you teaching and podcasting, what else do you do to entertain yourself? What else do you do to preoccupy yourself
Well,
with?
you know, we're in the process of moving somewhere.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's, as I was telling someone else last night on the podcast, that is unfortunately a very anxiety-ish type of thing that we're going to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a little hectic because we've moved from the pandemic into a move and blah 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 and blah blah blah. So it's
Oh,
it's a little stressful and it's definitely a little crazy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And have you managed to get another dog? That's one of my questions.
Right, right. I have not because I feel that now, I don't have the need for a guide dog. I'm not going out anymore really, and it's just life is
Oh,
just not the same as activity
wow.
wise and things like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But haven't you considered getting one just for, a pet? No?
Well, we might. I mean, my mother might want one eventually, just for a pet dog for herself, eventually someday. But my parents are not big pet people. They want to be able to do things and
Oh,
be very active. My father, in particular,
uh-huh.
is very active. So it's not.
Okay.
He's not terribly. He's not really a pet. He's not really a pet person. But he doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mind pets. But he's certainly not a pet person that has to have a lot of pets. I don't need a lot of pets
All
either. I just want
right.
one. But
Okay. All right. I
but yeah,
understand.
I see. And but what about you? What dog? What dog? What is your dog? What dog do you have?
Funny, I don't know the breed, but all I can tell you is that she's a wonderful dog and I love her. That's what I can
And what
say.
does she look like?
Oh, she's brown and she has a huge black nose and drooping ears and a really nice tail. And I bathe her like once a week. And oh my God, she's tied. And she's very active though, She's really a sweet creature. Yeah, man. I'm blessed to have her.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. That's so good.
Yes.
And how
Mhm.
did you come to find her?
Well, there was a dog that a cousin had. Well, actually, the dog was my cousin's own, and then the dog gave birth, and we in turn actually got two puppies. One passed, and then this one remained. So we have her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure, sure. Definitely. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned too that you have a very global family. So do you want to share with us more about the different interesting places around the world where your family lives? Because I'm sure you've traveled all over the world. To
Me, I haven't traveled all over the world. I've traveled like through the Caribbean. I've never been to the US or Canada. My dream was to actually go to England, but that probably has been put on hold because of everything that's going on worldwide. But I'm not giving up hope. I have a brother and a sister in the United States. I have three sisters and one brother in Canada, and I have a sister in Saint Martin. I have, let's see, one, two, three brothers here in St. Lucia. So basically, and I'm here. So that's it. Yeah.
well, that's cool. Martin's a very fascinating country. Half is French, half is Dutch. That's a very interesting
Mm-hmm.
island. How
Yes.
did that person end up on Martin?
I'm not sure. I guess she was just a very daring girl and, a risk taker. Yeah. And she just went across, I guess. Yeah. That's how she is. So she's there now. And yeah, that's what it is.
So now she probably speaks French perfectly now.
Yeah, she
Mm-hmm.
does. Yeah, she does. She does. She's good. She does.
I see.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yes.
And then how did those other people get to Canada, though? I mean, Martin's one thing, but Canada's really far. How did they get all the way to Canada?
Well, let's see. Like I've said, I guess they actually just took risks, because it's a gamble. You never know what will happen when you leave your home and just decide to go across. I think my uncle could have probably helped, in the situation and stuff like that. So, and then they just went up and made a life for themselves. Yeah.
I see. I see.
Hmm.
Very, very, very interesting. So, do you Zoom? Do you do Zoom calls with all of these people in these different countries?
Funny no, funny no. We have a family group that we talk on mostly, but we don't really do Zoom or anything unless it's absolutely necessary.
I
Yeah.
see. I see. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way. That we're just too busy with all of these WhatsApp groups. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So when you do, when you do read these books, do you get them from Audible? How are you reading these books that you like to read?
Well, I mean, they're print. So I have a magnifying glass that I
Mm,
use to read.
really?
Yes. Yeah,
Mm,
I read with a magnifying glass.
okay. Well, then you must have much better vision than me then if you can read with a magnifying glass.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I use a magnifying glass.
Doesn't that kind of strain your eyes though?
It does. It does, but I go it, because I love to read and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, my laptop has gone bad, so I'm trying to see how I can get another one, but then that's kind of challenging because the situation is kind of tough.
It
Keeping
is.
my
It is.
thoughts.
That was one
Yeah.
of the yeah, there's a lot of people who want to start programs where I had someone on. I was talking to the person just, well, I don't know when. Well, the episode does. Of course, this episode will come out in February. So just because you're listening to it in February, it doesn't mean that I recorded it. The days aren't quite matching up. But when I was speaking to someone just this week when I was doing the recordings, and they're someone here on the state side, and they too want to set up an organization that would be able to provide blind people with the necessary technology that they need. That's one of the biggest barriers now
Yep.
is the access to usable technology.
Hmm. But I just try to make do with what's available, and that's the best we can do.
Sure, sure.
Yep.
Um, and and what has been going on at Blind Welfare Association? What has become of the various characters of Blind Welfare Association?
Well, the association is still running, but they have cut down on their staffing, like a lot of other organizations has done. Um, Basically, it's running on a very small, um, a small staff. Um, I'm not really sure what the numbers are, but I can tell you that the amount of persons has been cut down. That I know.
Mm.
I mean, I as you know, I was an employee of the association, but in 2017, no, sorry, 2018, um we were actually sent home. A couple, well, some of the staff members were actually sent home. Yeah.
And that was the association's choice, or the decision that came from the government, or
No, it was the association's choice, as far as I know, yeah.
okay. So,
Hmm.
how are things going now? What's the situation today with the association?
To be very honest, I am not sure. I do not have in detail exactly what is going on, but I can tell you that they're still operational.
Okay, good. Very, very good to know. The work they do is really important.
That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. So that's what it is.
Well, hopefully they will get their programs back, back, running, and hopefully things
Hmm.
will, get back to back into the swing of things,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
as as we say. But
Hmm.
back to the music aspect
Yeah.
of things.
Hmm.
If someone is listening to this episode and they just heard your song and they're blind and they really want to get into music seriously themselves, what are some pointers and some things they should consider as far as getting into the industry of music?
Like I said, one has to know what he or she really wants, and I think to actually help people become more musically inclined, it helps to listen to different genres of music. get to talk to people who are involved in music. Um, it's good to practice to write songs, compose them, sing them, that kind of thing, and um, try to forge relationships with people who are actually into the music, that kind of thing. I do not have all the ins and outs of, like the really hardcore stuff when it comes to, like how to link up with producers and all of that. No. But the little pointers that I just gave, I think would guide somebody in that direction. And I'm hoping that it's clear cut enough.
Excellent. Sure, sure.
Mhm.
Well, so if someone wanted to get in touch with you personally, how would they go about doing that?
Um, because of the fact that we are a band, it would mostly be the producer because he's the one who does, like the producing and stuff like that. And so, I mean, they would need to link him up. His number, if I may give it out, is 1758. That's for people out of the region. 1758 519 7783.
Excellent.
Yes.
And do you, before we end with a song, and I think you're gonna be able to guess what song I'm gonna want you to sing in a minute. But before we
Oh
get to
my.
that, I think you'll know. I think you'll be able to guess what it is.
Oh
But
my God.
you'll be able to guess.
Oh God.
Before we get to that, would you like to ask me? I think we've really covered a lot today.
Mhm.
And so before we end, I think I've asked all of my questions. I think you've done a magnificent job, presenting all of this material. Do you have any final questions that you really want to ask me to, really make me sweat and see if I'm really worth my
Oh
salt
my
as
God.
a podcaster? You can ask. I tell you what, you can ask since we actually before I stopped the clock, you have at least another 8 minutes on the hour, 7 to 8 minutes. So
Mhm.
you can ask
Mhm.
three or a couple more questions that you really want to know to really make me sweat.
I don't know if they'll make you sweat, but one of them would be what actually motivated you to get into podcasting?
Sure, sure. Well, a couple years back, I was spending a lot of time teaching, and I discovered, as you probably remember from 2014, that I'm someone who loves teaching people. I love talking to
Mhm.
people. I love teaching people, and things like that. Um, and so, I just really used my teaching background as a springboard for me to talk about the various problems and issues that are going on around the world and in the blindness community.
Mhm.
And that's really how I got into it. And I felt that other podcasters were not open to having people guest on their show. And I think having a platform you know, where people can guest and speak about the issues that are important to them. You know, whether you love cats, you love birds, you're a musician,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
speak French, you don't. Podcasters need to start working together, just as musicians do and should.
All right.
We're all artists, right? This is a form of art, and we need to
Yeah.
we need to work together to start solving these various issues. So
Mhm.
that's really what became Aaron's opinion. And then over the past years, I've practiced. Podcasting just like music. You have to practice talking to
Yeah.
people. You have to practice the conversation. You have to practice interacting with a guest. It's a
Sure.
skill set. You have to practice it over years.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm. Okay. Good. What would you say is your favorite genre of music?
I love I love hearing someone sing with your beautiful Lucian accent or your
Oh my
Caribbean way
God.
of singing. I love the music of your region. Um, it's a little weird for me to say it, but of course I love reggae. I
Woo,
love
nice.
yes, and what about you, by the way?
Well, my favorite genre is basically dance. I really love dance.
Dance and what do you think of reggae too? Do you
Oh
sing some
yeah,
reggae?
yeah. Um, kind of. I used to sing reggae with the bands, you know? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. There's some really beautiful, some really incredible songs.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So beautiful,
Hmm.
so beautiful.
Hmm. Hmm.
All
Yes.
right.
And what would my final question be? Um, Throughout this entire pandemic, what would you say would what sorry, what have you learned most,
Brilliant question.
throughout this? Yeah, what have you
Brilliant.
learned?
Absolutely perfect. Absolute brilliant question. I've learned to be patient
Oh, that is awesome.
because we've had to do a lot of sitting around in very hot weather, in very cold weather, when we're very tired, when we have a lot of work, when we're bored. I've just learned that sometimes in life you just have to be, bless you, autistic.
Yeah,
You just have
thank
to be,
you,
no
thank
problem,
you.
no problem. It's fine. You just have to be patient in life, and that that a
Wow.
successful life and the success of a podcast or music, let me forewarn you, everything is painfully slow. So if you think you're producing mute tracks slowly, well then you must be producing them very well. So don't let this don't let the slow or the sluggish nature affect you. If it's slow, it's good. Nobody wants to tell you
Wow.
that.
All right. Awesome. Thank you
So,
so much for sharing that.
so. Once upon a time, we were sitting at Blind Welfare.
Oh
We
my
were
God.
sitting in the lounge, and I asked you if you could record singing a very, very, very special song.
Oh
A
my.
song that I tremendously love. How about you? How about I say, thanks so much, Nikki Edmonds, and why don't you leave this episode with a couple verses or however many verses you want to do of that wonderful national anthem that I love so much.
Oh
You knew
my
that was coming.
goodness.
Starting with
Yes,
the sons and
definitely.
daughters. Yes.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my goodness. And you remember the opening words.
Of
That's
course I
that's
do.
so awesome. Wow. Okay. Sons and daughters of Saint Lucia, love the land that gave us birth, land of beaches, hills, and valleys, fairest isle of all the earth. Wheresoever you may roam, love, oh love, our island home. Gone the time when nations battled for this Helen of the West. Gone the days when strife and discord dim her children's toil and rest. Dawns at last a brighter day, stretches out a glad new way. May the good Lord bless our island, gather sons from woe and harm. May our people live united, strong in soul and strong in arm. Justice, truth, and charity are our deal forever be. That's it.